Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to AM News on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Jumai Manson. Now, quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now, the news in full. A federal high court in Abuja has sentenced 4 men to death by hanging over their involvement in the 2022 deadly attack on St. Francis Catholic Church, Owo, in Ondo State. The convicts, Idris Abdul Malik Omarza Al-Asim, Idris Jamil Abdul Malik, and Abdul Halim Idris, were found guilty on a 9-count terrorism charge filed by the Department of State Services on behalf of the federal government. However, the 5th defendant, Momo Otuho Abubakar, was discharged and acquitted for lack of evidence linking him to the attack. Ubong Usoro tells us more.
Leaving judgment, Justice Emeka Nwite held that the prosecution had proved its case beyond reasonable doubt, establishing that the convicts were active members of a terrorist cell that planned and executed assault on the worship center. The court heard that the attackers stormed the church during Pentecost service on June 5, 2022, opening fire and detonating improvised explosive devices. The attack left more than 40 worshippers dead and over 100 others injured in one of the country's most tragic acts of terrorism.
Because the investigation that went into the prosecution was not only forensic, it was thorough. The DSS did a very, very thorough and painstaking investigation. And it was that thorough and painstaking investigation that the trial was anchored. Therefore, the evidence adduced by the prosecution was ironclad. And so
the prosecution called 11 witnesses and tendered 23 exhibits, including confessional statements and digital forensic evidence linking the defendants to the planning and execution of the attack.
So we are happy because justice has been served, justice has been done to the deceased who were murdered in cold blood. Justice has been done to their family members. Justice has been done to the Owo community. Justice
Nwite consequently sentenced the 4 convicts to death by hanging. Ubong Usoro, Global TV News.
Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari has cautioned against the release of sensitive security information regarding the abduction of 46 pupils, teachers, and a toddler from Isele and Yawota community in Orire local government area of Oyo State, saying ongoing efforts to secure the victims' release require discretion. The lawmaker, who represents Oyo North Senatorial District, spoke with journalists after presenting a motion on the floor of the Senate titled "The Abduction of School Children, Teachers, and a Toddler in Orire Local Government Area of Oyo State." National Assembly correspondent Anite Patrick reports.
The motion called on the federal government and relevant security agencies to intensify rescue operations and deploy all necessary resources towards securing the immediate release of the adopted victims. Addressing concerns over the limited flow of information from security agencies, Senator Buhari said operational details could not be disclosed publicly because of the delicate nature of the rescue efforts. According to him, security agencies are working round the clock to ensure the safe return of the victims, stressing that public disclosure of certain information could undermine ongoing operations.
So, approach or no approach, I can assure you they are trying their best, but it's not everything that you say because Nigeria, I'm sorry, with due respect to our people, with due respect to our general human being, before you realize, they release the information to these people. That's the truth. That's the reason why you can see that they are not talking, they are not giving out information. All what you are looking for is that God will help the security people that they are doing their maneuvering for them to get their.
He further warned political actors against exploiting the tragedy for partisan purposes, insisting that the focus should remain on supporting efforts to secure the release of the victims and provide relief to affected families. In particular, Senator Buhari cautioned against what he described as attempts to trivialize or sensationalize the incident for political gain, urging public figures to exercise restraint and empathy during the crisis.
We are talking of people's life. I said 2 years old. It's my senatorial. It's my constituency. It's my town. It's a saddest thing. It's a very pathetic. This thing I'm saying, I wish, I'll send you a video. That my friend visited when the incident happened. So it's not somebody, you know, there are some certain things everybody wants in that.
The Senate has since urged security agencies to sustain coordinated efforts to rescue the adopted pupils, teachers, and toddler, while reassuring affected communities that every available measure is being deployed to ensure their safe return. As anxiety mounts among families, lawmakers are calling for unity, vigilance, and continued support for security operations rather than actions that could jeopardize ongoing rescue efforts. From the National Assembly, Annie T. Patrick, Global TV News.
Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has assured protesting teachers and civil society groups that security agencies are intensifying efforts to secure the release of adopted teachers and students. The assurance came as demonstrators gathered at the FCT Administration Secretariat demanding urgent action over recent school kidnappings. Kabir Hassan completes the report.
Addressing the protesters, the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, said government remains committed to ensuring the safe return of all victims, stressing that security agencies are working around the clock to restore confidence in the nation's security architecture. Wike expressed confidence in the capacity of security institutions to secure the release of those abducted, emphasizing the need for swift intervention.
They can to make sure the teachers and the students that are being kidnapped in Oyo State are being released unharmed. But let me say this clearly. I don't like politicizing anything that happens. You have said here in FCT that teachers have been kidnapped before. Why was there no protest in the country?
The minister, however, warned against turning security challenges into political debates, noting that insecurity remains a national concern requiring collective responsibility and unified action. Wike called for national solidarity, stressing that insecurity anywhere in the country should concern all citizens.
So why is this one not particular? We're all concerned. We're all concerned, but let us not politicize issues. That's what I will not support. But we're all concerned about security situation. We're all concerned about how the teachers and students should be released. And we all know, without being biased, that the security system is doing quite a lot to make sure that they contain the level of insecurity in this country.
The protest follows growing concern over recent school abduction, with teachers and civil society groups demanding stronger security measures and immediate rescue efforts. Kabir Hassan, Global TV News.
The sister of the former Minister of Power and All Progressive Congress 2027 governorship aspirant in Oyo State, Bayo Adelabu, and her twin children have been kidnapped in Ibadan, the state capital. The incident occurred at the challenge area of Ibadan Southwest local government area of the state. The family appeals to members of the public to remain calm, avoid speculations, and refrain from circulating unverified information that may jeopardize ongoing security operations. Benin Republic's President Ramad Wageni has visited President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, marking his first trip abroad since being sworn into office a few weeks ago. Benin and Nigeria maintain one of the closest and most structurally impactful bilateral relationships in West Africa, Uyi Agbomofuegbe reports that the trip signals how high Benin ranks its partnership with Nigeria as Wadagni sets his foreign policy agenda for the new presidential term. Deputy Speaker
Bound by an 809-kilometer shared border and a centuries-old history predating colonial borders, both countries share populations whose commercial, familial, and cultural exchanges have never ceased. Official diplomatic relations between the two nations, established on September 12, 1961, enshrine this long-standing brotherhood. On the economic front, Nigeria is Benin's primary trading partner. The autonomous port of Cotonou serves as an essential gateway for Nigerian trade bound for landlocked countries in the sub-region. Benin's formal exports to Nigeria increased by over 90% in 2024. The Semekrake Joint Border Control. Benin's formal exports to Nigeria increased by over 90% in 2024. The Semekrake Joint Border Control Posts, the West African Gas Pipeline, and the Benin-Nigeria Business Forum held in January 2026 all illustrate the depth of this bilateral integration. During the talks between both presidents, Tinubu, Wadagni discussed economic and industrial cooperation, energy ties, maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea, and regional issues that include unity within the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. Uyi Agbomofuegbe, Global TV News.
National Court of Justice is witnessing historic rise in cases, largely driven by issues of genocide, armed conflict, and occupation across Africa. Akalu made the remark while hosting Nigerian-born United Kingdom candidate for the forthcoming ICJ election, Dakpo Akande, at the National Assembly. The Deputy Speaker stressed the importance of strong representation at the Global Court and assured Akande of the National Assembly's support for his bid. The meeting ended with the presentation of an endorsement proclamation from the office of the Deputy Speaker, underscoring confidence in Akande's ability to serve effectively as a judge of the International Court of Justice.
To have predictability and where we're able to have justice. And it is when we have the rule of law internationally that we're able to guarantee those things. So
West Africa is experiencing one of its most destabilizing decades since independence. Human Rights Watch and other international monitors have documented systemic atrocities by both state forces and non-state actors across the Sahel, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, and in Niger. 3 ECOWAS member states have withdrawn into the Alliance of Sahel States, weakening a regional, legal, and security architecture that Nigeria have built over decades of diplomacy and peacekeeping investment, exceeding $1 billion cumulatively since 1990s. We are saying this to you because
The United Nations says about 35 million Nigerians are at risk of acute hunger between June and August, raising concerns over growing impact of insecurity, economic hardship, and climate-related challenges. As the country battles one of its worst food crises in recent years, Zarau Nasiru examines the situation and reports on possible solutions. The report.
A new report by the United Nations Humanitarian Country Team paints a troubling picture of Nigeria's food situation. According to the report, nearly 1 in 7 Nigerians, about 35 million people, could experience acute food insecurity during the lean season from June to August. Acute hunger is described as a severe shortage of food consumption capable of threatening lives and livelihoods, often triggered by conflict, climate shocks, and economic instability. The report warns that delayed intervention could force millions of families to skip meals, sell productive assets, and withdraw children from school, worsening poverty and long-term vulnerability. Public affairs commentator Professor Ibrahim Abubakar says insecurity and climate change remain major drivers of worsening food crisis across the country.
So many factors for now: insecurity, climate change, then the input of GMO. These are the key factors. Any other factors could just happen.
Professor Ibrahim Abubakar adds that adopting modern farming methods and improving agricultural practices could help boost food production and reduce vulnerability.
A lot has to be done. We have to look for modern way of farming, bring in commodity exchange program and other programs that will benefit Nigerians. Then also look into deep research into what our sector implies with or relate with the agricultural sector.
The United Nations says Nigeria now accounts for one of the largest hunger crises globally, with northern states carrying the heaviest burden. Zahra Nasir, Global TV News.
The federal government has intensified health screening measures at airports, seaports, and land borders as part of effort to prevent the importation of Ebola virus disease amid an outbreak of the strain in parts of East and Central Africa. And the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare said travelers identified as high risk or displaying symptoms associated with Ebola and other viral hammering fever would undergo secondary screening, isolation, and referral procedures, despite no confirmed case currently recorded in Nigeria. Authorities have also strengthened surveillance through temperature checks, travel history assessments, health declaration forms, and community-based monitoring systems to enhance national preparedness and disease detection. You are watching the live broadcast of AM News. AM News continues after this weather forecast, plus business, foreign, and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us.
If Wednesday is anything to go by, the atmosphere is certainly making its presence felt. Widespread rainfall and thunderstorms swept across large parts of the country, stretching from Taraba through the central belt, extending to some parts of the north and the southern state. Now, as we turn our attention to Thursday, the weather story is far from over. Through the overnight hours into early morning, thunderstorms are expected to linger across parts of Sokoto, Kebbi, Zamfara, to parts of Taraba State, setting the stage for another active day across the nation. For the south, residents of Niger, Benue, Enugu, Cross River, Akwa Ibom, Rivers, and Lagos State should also prepare for cloudy skies and possible morning rainfall, which could affect early day activities. But it is during the afternoon and evening hours when the atmosphere is expected to become more energized. Thunderstorms are forecast to develop across much of the country, bringing potential for heavy downpour, gusty winds, and localized disruption. So keep an eye on the sky and stay weather aware, because Thursday promised to be another day of dynamic and changing conditions. And that's the forecast. Now let's find out how these weather systems will affect the temperatures across the country. I am Akamista Marda. Stay safe and stay informed.
You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is AM News on Global Television. Thank you for staying with us. In business now, Vice President Kashim Shettima has called on state governments to fast-track business-enabling reforms under the $750 million World Bank-supported State Action on Business Enabling Reform Program to attract investment and stimulate economic growth. Speaking at a stakeholders meeting in Abuja, Shettima said effective implementation of the program would improve infrastructure, strengthen investor confidence, reduce the cost of doing business, and create jobs across the country. He directed the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council to explore extending the program by 1 year, while stakeholders expressed optimism that participating states will meet conditions required to assess the intervention funds. Nigeria attracted $10.37 billion in capital importation during the first quarter of 2026, representing an 83.83% increase compared to the $5.64 billion recorded in the corresponding period of 2025. The National Bureau of Statistics said capital inflows also rose by nearly 61% from the previous quarter, reflecting renewed investor confidence with foreign direct investment, accounting for $135.08 million, and other investments contributing $374.48 million. According to the Bureau, the figures were compiled from data supplied by the Central Bank of Nigeria and captured fresh foreign capital inflows reported by commercial banks. On the foreign news now, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Bianca Ojukwu, has called for deeper cooperation between Africa and the Republic of Korea in critical sectors including energy, healthcare, peace, and security. Global TV Foreign Affairs correspondent Ramsey Enoch Agbo tells us more.
Speaking at the Korea-African Foreign Ministers meeting in Seoul, South Korea, the minister proposed the establishment of a Korea-African Green Energy Alliance, expanded collaboration on peace and security, and a health security compact aimed at strengthening vaccine production and pandemic preparedness across Africa.
This meeting has demonstrated Korea's genuine commitment to building a partnership with Africa that is forward-looking, practical, and mutually beneficial. The range of agreements and initiatives across trade, investment, digital transformation, energy, health, and human capital development reflects a shared recognition that Africa and Korea have much to gain.
The Foreign Affairs Minister also renewed calls for reform in global governance institutions, emphasizing the need for greater African representation in major international decision-making bodies. She stressed that Nigeria seeks partnership driven by shared interests and sustainable development rather than dependency, describing South Korea's economic transformation as an inspiration for Africa's development aspirations.
Africa's challenge is to move beyond the export of raw materials and become a competitive producer of finished goods. Korea's industrial journey offers a clear roadmap. With a market of over 220 million people and access to ECOWAS, 400 million consumers under the African Continental Free Trade Area, Nigeria provides the scale Korean firms need.
The Korea-African Foreign Ministers meeting brought together leaders and diplomats to strengthen cooperation and explore collective responses to emerging global challenges. Ramsey Enoch Agbo, Global TV News.
The World Health Organization has warned that Ebola outbreak in Central Africa and spread significantly before it was officially detected. The agency is also calling for stronger international support as health workers race to contain the virus. Mukhtar Qasim reports.
More than 340 confirmed Ebola cases and over 60 deaths have been recorded in the Democratic Republic of Congo, with additional figures reported in neighboring Uganda. Speaking after a visit to the affected region, WHO Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus said the outbreak had gained a considerable head start before health authorities identified it. He says the virus had been spreading under the radar for some time, adding that response teams are now working urgently to catch up with the outbreak.
A big head start, and we're still behind, but under the leadership of the government of DRC, we're catching up. Blanket travel restrictions imposed by some countries are disrupting supply chains and hindering the response.
The Director General also expressed concern over restrictions imposed by some countries in response to the outbreak. Tedros urged countries that imposed blanket travel restrictions to lift them, warning that the measures are disrupting supply chains and hindering response operations.
WHO recommends exit screening at airports, ports, and border crossings to prevent the exportation of cases and contacts. We ask countries that have imposed blanket travel restrictions to lift them.
The WHO says the outbreak poses a very high risk within the affected country and a high risk across the region, while maintaining that the global risk remains low. The outbreak involves the rare Budingu strain of Ebola, for which there is no currently approved vaccine, making surveillance and early detection critical to containment efforts. Mukhtar Qasim, Global TV News.
In sports stories now, the Super Falcons camp in Ikenne, Ogun State have received a major boost with the arrival of Benfica midfielder Christy Ochebe and Al Ittihad forward Francisca Odega ahead of the team's friendly matches against Senegal. The duo joined several other players who reported to camp as preparations intensified for the two-legged fixtures scheduled for Friday and Monday at the Remo Stars Sports Complex. The friendlies form part of Nigeria's build-up to the 2026 Women's African Cup of Nations in Morocco, where the Super Falcons will seek a record-extending 11th continental title in qualification for the 2027 FIFA World Cup. Lagos State has received a major vote of confidence ahead of the maiden national intermediate game as the main organizing committee expressed satisfaction with the state's level of preparedness following a comprehensive 3-day inspection tour of facilities and support infrastructure. The delegation, led by Director General of the National Sports Commission, Kola Olopade, inspected major venues, including the Teslim Balogun Stadium, National Stadium Complex in Surulere University of Lagos sports facilities, Rebel Park Sports Center, and other locations designated for the competition. Speaking during a courtesy visit by the committee, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu reaffirmed Lagos State's commitment to hosting a successful championship, stating that the games align with the state's vision for youth empowerment and sports development. He commended the leadership of the National Sports Commission for its efforts in repositioning sports administration in the country. And that's it on AM News. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen by using @GlobalTVNG. I am Jumai Manson. Up next is Global Morning. Stay tuned.